everyone to the 7th episode of SocioTech podcast. Today I'm your host Kaustav and my friend Jyoti, the co-host. Welcome a very special guest, Dr. Manju Dhariwal ma'am. She is the professor from the LNM Institute of Information Technology in the HSS department. Her area of interests are from the feminist, gender society and English literature. Welcome ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you for getting me here.
Ma'am, I remember you taught us TEC in the first semester. It was all online session. But ma'am, do you realize that how the differences in the gender was there? Like the ratio, I remember that in my batch when you were teaching, there was almost like for 150 students, there were around only 10 girls. So the ratio is quite bad in this college. So what do you think that how these societal pressures or societal things makes our understanding about the gender role and how these roles take a form and understanding towards the society?
So see, gender is an integral part of our society. But then we have to understand that our society also caters to gender stereotypes, which are embedded in our thought processes, in our ways of living, the way we think, the way we act. Our motive should be to deconstruct those gender stereotypes. Now, if we talk about our society, so there are certain codes that we follow. There are feminine codes and there are masculine codes. And as we are born in some family and as we grow up, we automatically start adhering to these codes. Because we think that there are certain privileges that we get by adhering to these codes, and we would like to get those privileges. So nobody tells us, actually, nobody teaches us how to behave, but by observing others, by observing the traditions of our society, by observing the customs of our family that we've been born in, we start adhering to those codes.
And what exactly the codes you're talking of?
I'm talking about feminine and masculine codes. Okay, so feminine codes means if you're born as a girl, how are you supposed to behave? How should you be dressing up? What kind of language should you be using, right? Similarly, if you are a boy, then you are supposed to be maybe more macho kind of a person. You should be more aggressive, right? You should not be crying if there is an emotional situation. So those are the codes that we see in society, and we automatically start following. And that somewhere gets imbibed in us, as well as in the social structure, in the policies that the government might be framing. Now, of course, there is a lot of, what do we say? The government also has started talking about the positive kind of policies that are being made for both the genders. For example, I recently saw in one of the news that Rajasthan government has come up with the Indira Gandhi smartphone Yojana for 2023 for girls, because it could see the digital divide there. So the digital divide is of course there, and what are we doing? What is the government doing? What kind of policies is it bringing to bridge that digital divide? And this digital divide, of course, where has it come from? It has come from society. It has come from the codes, the stereotypes that we've been following. Right? So, of course, certain changes need to be taken up and
inculcated.
They should be. People should be talking about it. It's a good move that we at least have started having this dialogue.
I'm taking as a child, whenever we grow up, we see in an Indian household, mother is a caregiver. She takes about everyone in the family. She takes care, and father be like a strong person.
People are fixed about their roles.
Yeah, rules.
Those are the gender stereotypes that we need to deconstruct now.
Okay.
And how do we do it? People are still not ready to change because it benefits them, because then they won't get all the privileges that are associated with a certain kind of gender. But then the mindset, and especially I would say in rural areas, it is very difficult to change. It can only be changed through education.
Exactly.
And so it is bringing some change, but a lot needs to be done yet.
Yeah, ma'am. I have also seen the policies of the government. They are working right for the reservation of the girls into the higher sections so that they can move up. Ma'am, like these reservation kind of thing you mentioned, like this yojana for the ladies, for the girls, the
Yes.
mobile thing. These kind of small reservations, and even on the higher side, like I gave my JEE exam and there was a special quota for women. So how these reservation thing affect our overall understanding in the present scenario? Like, as we can see, I have seen my friends, they are like, dude, she's a girl, she'll clear out easily. The reservation thing is defining the new boundaries about the genders. So how do you feel about
I think what you are saying is you have not seen the historical disadvantage which was given to one gender.
Okay.
And so to bring them at par with the other gender, you cannot just negate the past.
Exactly,
You will
yes.
have to consider the past and bring everybody at some level, at an equal level. And from there on, then you can talk about the policies where no reservation is given to anyone, be it girls or be it LGBTQ kind of identities also we can say.
Ma'am.
So that is the dilemma right now.
Exactly.
The younger generation from whom we are expecting so much, actually they do not know where is it coming from. So they need to know that if the government is talking about reservation, what is the history? Why is it doing so? So because when we talk about all the other marginalized sections also, for example, caste, or maybe race.
Yes, ma'am.
So these people have been subjugated for a very long period of time.
Yes, ma'am.
And so if you see that, then you will also say that yes, some kind of advantages should be given to these
Yes, ma'am.
sections of society so that they also feel normal, so that we can normalize the situation for everybody, for all identities.
So in a broader prospect, we can see that we are trying to normalize everything. Maybe we are giving some advantages to the laws, because like even now, as if we can see in my family and in the neighborhood, I see the people are still judging on the basis of caste and creed, and everything is going around there. Same goes with the gender, like a girl is not allowed to go outside after 6 o'clock. Well, men
These
are
are the
allowed.
stereotypes.
These are the stereotypes that
Right.
have been growing up since the.
Mhm.
And also, ma'am, you just mentioned about the LGBTQ community, like the multitude of genders from binary to polynomial right now. So, ma'am, like in the USA, I was recently studying, there have been 72 genders for now. Like they are still growing, and I don't know how it's going there, but what's your point of view, and how can we just look at, like right now, India is, I'm not thinking that
India is
India
totally
will,
new to such things.
yeah, India is not that
People
open-minded because of people, like
They
not
don't
a-
even know about it in India.
Yeah.
Again, I would say that we have to look at the history. So we cannot say that as Indians, we do not know about, or such things have not happened in our historical past. These things were very much an integral part of our society. Let's not think about America right now.
Okay.
Even if we talk about India,
Hmm.
you will see all the monuments. If you go in any great monuments, you'll see sculptures where they're portraying all kinds of identities, all kind of gender, all kind of sexualities are being portrayed.
Yes, ma'am.
What does that mean? That means that it was an integral part of our society and culture, right from day one. But when did things change? The things changed by the coming, when the British came to India, and we call it as the colonial modernity.
Exactly. Yes, ma'am.
So with them, the mindset was that okay, there are now only two genders, normal genders, and rest, if the people are following any other gender or sexuality, then those are diseased people, and they need to be either penalized, persecuted. They were persecuted, and then they were supposed to confined to the normal, which was only the binary, the male and the female. So it all started from 19th century onwards, 20th century, as long as the British ruled on us. Before that also, if you see in courts, the kings, and during the Mughal era, there used to be courtesans, and there used to be people who had fluid kind of identities, and that was very normal, right?
Yes, ma'am.
All kinds of homosexual activities also were very normal.
Normalized.
So
Yes, ma'am.
all this became diseased only during the colonial modernity, and so we cannot say that this is something new to us. So it has always been there in our society. The only thing was somehow people could not express themselves very freely, And now after that has gone, and laws also have come to support different identities, people have started coming out in the open.
Yes, ma'am.
And the same is happening in the US also.
Yes,
There
ma'am.
was a time in 1970s when people were persecuted. Anybody who did not belong to the two genders, they were penalized, they were imprisoned, people were imprisoned and all. But then again, there were outbursts, there were people took to roads, and they have started coming out in the open. And if you ask me about the difference between India and America, America has already legalized homosexual marriages.
Exactly. Yes,
Whereas we have not in
We have
India. In India, the only thing that has been done is that it has decriminalized the
homosexuality.
sexuality and the staying together of two homosexual people of any gender. We have still not legalized a marriage between them, and they are, of course, raising their voice for that.
Yeah, I feel it will take some time.
So, ma'am, how do you see India in the near future? If such people still rise up, as you said that Indians were hiding it. I mean, people were having those identities, but they were not coming out in public.
Yes.
But so if this movement also grows up, like taking up the West. So, what could be the government doing about it? We are already running with the reservation issues for SC, STs, and now if such communities also come up. So, won't it create public turmoil or something?
So I'm not talking about reservations as of now. We cannot talk about reservations because first and foremost, we have to talk about giving them their rights, their democratic rights, constitutional rights, which they are still not getting. Leave alone reservation. Who's giving them reservations? No, they are not getting any reservation. They are only asking for a very humane way of living, or sustaining in society because they are discriminated by the normal genders and they do not get their rights. So the fight right now is still getting their identity, back. I mean, just to show that, okay, we are also human beings and we also deserve to live like normal human beings.
Social
and that
acceptance.
is what the Supreme Court, that is why it decriminalized that sexuality and living together of these people. And certain rights, constitutional rights also have been given to them. Very recently, 2019, they have a right to life, they have a right to residence. They can, and yes, very recently, nobody can force them to part. I mean, to go away from their families of birth, because usually, what is the understanding that once
it creates a public shame,
then
for the families.
Yes, then it is a kind of shame. Earlier it used to be, but now since the Supreme Court also has given this law that they can stay within the families.
Ma'am, it's still not being followed.
It will take some time.
Yeah.
Any new change when it comes, it takes time.
Exactly.
It doesn't happen overnight. Right.
It will take some time. Even ma'am, as you were talking about the history, I just now realized that in the Hindu scriptures as well, there were some instances where it was mentioned about the LGBTQ community. It exists from the past, from the era where we are reading the Hindu scriptures and everything.
Yes.
It's just kind of a forgotten past now.
Yes, it was very much there. So many literatures have been written. Ruth Vanita is one very prominent voice who's writing about all these sexual identities existing back then. In Hindu mythology, Hindu scriptures, and she's just one example. Many others are also writing about it. So through literature also we get to know that it is nothing new. And for that, I just saw an ad actually yesterday only where Starbucks has come to India, and they have come out with an ad. Did you see that ad? Where there is a family and there is a transgender person who comes to Starbucks to have coffee with the parents, and they've been separated for a long time, but they meet after a long time, and there because the parents were not supporting, they were not accepting her identity. Because she was a transgender, born as a boy, and now she wanted to be a girl. But then the father finally accepts her identity and asks her, would you like to have coffee? And so that is an ad which I really liked in the sense, and But people still raised so many slogans and raised their voice against those kinds of ads, saying that it is spoiling Indian tradition, Indian culture. Whereas it is not spoiling, it is just accepting these identities which have always been a part of Indian
Yeah, means the parents are
society.
still having those affection attachment just because what others will think,
Yes, because of the
my public
stereotypes.
image will go.
Stereotypes, yeah.
Because of the
Yeah.
stereotypes of
Right,
society, they could not openly accept.
Right.
But now they might have realized at a
Yeah.
later date that what is the best thing
Right.
for them to do, and so
Right.
they accept it. So
So-
very moving advertisement.
Slowly we are walking towards the past.
Yes,
We are accepting the things happening, and now we are moving.
we can
growing
never
up with-
dissociate from our past.
Yeah.
It's always a thing to
Yeah.
learn from.
Yes.
We always learn from our mistakes.
Yes. No, I mean, you can, I'm not saying that you have to imbibe everything from the past, but certain things which were your tradition, a part of your culture, and it is resurfacing in a way. So how can you negate? How can
Exactly.
you not
Yes, ma'am.
accept it?
So, ma'am, like right now we are talking so much about the gender. I just wanted to infuse some technological part towards it as well. So, ma'am, how do you feel that these differences in the genders, their roles, and everything are going to affect the technological part, corporate structure, and everything? So, ma'am, what your point of view about it?
So again, technology, I would say, it derives from society.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
It is not again dissociated from society.
Yes, ma'am.
Whatever is happening in society gets reflected
Yes,
in
ma'am.
technology, in your corporate world.
Mm.
Those are the same people who are living as normal human beings in their day-to-day lives in society.
Mm.
So if there is a discrimination happening in society, it will reflect in the corporate world or the digital world. So if you are not giving proper education to the girls, right, if that is not your priority, then it will again reflect when they go for a job. Then obviously a person who's tech savvy would get the job. And who would that be? Mostly the one gender, the male gender. Because he is being given all those opportunities right from the beginning.
Right from the
Right.
yes, ma'am.
So we have to see everything coming from society, and if there are any corrections to be made, they should be made at the society level, so that they do not get reflected, they do not get imbibed in the corporate
But
world.
that's the patriarchal nature of India you're talking about, and that's quite rooted. So it's very, very difficult to trace back our roots and remove it, because again people still have the notions, father is like the head of the family, and mother's she abides by him, and so that's what the sons and the daughters they get from the parents, and so this thing continues.
No, I won't say that it is so deep rooted that it cannot be changed. It can be changed, and now we are seeing the changes, right, through education to the younger generation who's coming up now. For example, you people will bring the change. If it was not there during your grandparents' time or your parents' time, it is okay. Just accept it. But now, since you are educated, you can always go for that kind of equality. As I can see the girls coming to our institute,
Yes, ma'am.
they've been given opportunities. That's why they are here. Right, so same way, and then government is also coming out with many schemes like Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao.
Yes, ma'am.
And I just now talked about this, giving the smartphones to girls or single women or divorced women. This was an initiative by the government because it realizes that there is a problem. There is a digital divide because of lack of access. First of all, you have to give them the gadget. And then the digital literacy has to happen. You have to give them a certain kind of education right from the school onwards. And then gradually this gap will narrow down. We can bridge the gap. But of course, you're right, because even in companies, we see that, I was looking at the data, that in India at least, the girls are getting these jobs in technical firms and all. But it's very difficult for them to reach the top position.
Yeah, there's still discrepancy.
Yeah, the gender segregation happens at the top.
Right.
They can never reach the top. And there probably we can think of why do they not, because they have to also take care of the family.
Right.
You know, even if a boy and girl is inducted at the same level, the growth of the boy is much faster in his career than a girl. Why? Because she is expected to take care of, first of all, to bear a child, rear a child,
So
take care of the family.
Right.
So there are so many, obstructions
Right.
for a woman to
Right.
reach that position. That could be one reason. That can, I am saying that is not the only reason. That could be one reason. The other reason could also be the stereotypes which are already there, that the top position should not be held by women. So those stereotypes,
Leadership
of course,
positions are like already taken by men.
yeah, they are taken by men, or men are
They are provided to men.
yes, okay, they are provided. No, you have to, okay. If you say they are provided,
I'm
then
like, I'm
again
talking
you
about
have
their
to
bias.
you have to exert your agency, because in gender studies we talk about agency. What is, you have to show that you have a strong will to change things, to change the status quo, to change the stereotypes. For that you have to be bold enough to raise your voice, first of all, and then see that that change happens at the right place.
Yeah.
So for that, I think women would have to be more bold, more courageous,
Right.
try to show their agency, to have a
Right.
voice, and
Right.
see things are happening according to their way. So that,
Right.
and that will lead to the societal change later on.
But still, there are
eventually.
years to come for
It
that.
depends. We can see women are actually growing, because they're like, it's not that all men are taking up the higher positions. I've seen many women who are holding
Indira
this.
Nooyi is one
Yes, ma'am.
example.
Indira Gandhi,
Indira Gandhi.
ma'am, the CEO of Coca-Cola,
Yes.
and there's so many examples. Like even at the base level, if I tell about me from hometown, there's one of my friend whose mother is running a government school in her own house.
See?
It's a big house and Haveli kind of a thing, so they are running it all from home, and it's going well. Like I have seen her doing the hard work and just holding.
So she's already deconstructed the gender
Yeah,
stereotype.
I mean, his family is totally different from what I seen. Like totally modernized everything. Like father to son talk is also very different. Like I have seen everything, so I can say that women are
doing things. There are certain this section of women, of course, they're coming up, but still lot needs to be done at the grassroots level.
Yes, ma'am. We have to deconstruct a foundation and create a very good foundation for them.
Right.
It's all about the support we get from the family, I guess.
Right.
Yes, ma'am.
So the mindset has to change.
So, ma'am, I want to talk about exploitations against women when they go enter to the corporate world. Even I feel after I see there's so many news filled with sexual harassment, the mental abuse. So, can you please talk about something on that?
Sexual harassment, again, it's not only in the corporate world. It can happen anywhere. Sexual harassment is a part and parcel of our daily lives. Again, how do you see it? How do you tackle it?
But it's
so
majorly...
that reminds me of a story, which I teach in my class. It is the title is The Sultana's Dream by Begum Ruqayya. And she says that who's the troublemaker? Is it the women who are the troublemaker, or is it men? And obviously all of us know that it is the men who are the troublemaker. Then why don't we confine them to the spaces where we want the women to get confined? We tell girls not to go out at after a certain time.
Yeah.
So we are confining them to the interiority of our homes or our spaces and all. Just for their safety. We are assuming that will keep them safe. But safe from whom?
From men.
From the culprits. So why don't we confine the culprits to
exactly.
Those spaces? Why don't we do something about the culprits?
Yeah.
So that our women are more safe and such things do not happen. So there are various ways of doing it. First and foremost is, as we keep on saying, that we need the parents nowadays, they need to bring up their sons
like teaching the boys as well.
Upbringing has to change.
Yes,
something you don't teach them in the family gets reflected later on. The kind of value systems that you provide them. So right from the beginning, the upbringing has to change, and the boys need to be taught how are they supposed to behave, not only with the girls but with within the family also. the activity, the chore, the daily chores. Why do we
Right,
expect
right.
only girls to
Yeah, exactly.
help the parent, the mother in the daily chores? Why not the boys? Why can't the boys operate the washing machine? Or why can't he go in the kitchen and cook? So all of these things, if right from the beginning we are
For now, it's like hurting the
training
dignity.
them, teaching them, so that mindset gradually
Yeah, yeah.
will get wired in
Yeah.
that manner, and then finally we tell them the value
Yeah.
of the other gender.
Hmm.
Why is it so very important to respect the other gender? So I think gradually then we can make a change in society, and where such problems of sexual harassment won't happen.
Hmm.
So again, I would say education also plays a very important role. What kind of education are we giving them?
Totally, I can thank my mom. She taught me how to cook and also do house chores.
Right.
So I know the pain that
Pain,
women
yes,
go
that
through
women
while
go through.
doing the house. It's not easy to be a
That
housewife.
is only half the pain that you know. You
Right.
will never know the other half,
Yes,
which
ma'am.
she has to go through because
Yeah.
of her body.
Yes, ma'am.
Bearing a child and the childbirth, and then we expect, gender stereotypes. When we talk about gender stereotypes, we see that if the fathers are taking care of the child, then it should be respected by the woman, by the mother, that he's taking care of the child. Why? Because the stereotype says that he's not supposed to,
Yeah,
but still he's doing it.
Yeah.
So a lot of gratitude is to be shown
Yes,
to
to
the
the-
man who's doing it.
Yes, ma'am.
So again, that is what I say, codes, masculine codes
Yeah.
and feminine
Yes,
codes,
ma'am.
which are already
Yeah.
being constructed, and they have to be deconstructed.
Hmm.
So, ma'am, that was very insightful. But before going towards the end, I wanted to ask a very last question. And, ma'am, that was like in the present growing scenario, like, how can we, like, the conclusive statement that how should we keep steps forward, like one step at a time, and know and like realize how to create a good foundation for all these growing multitudes of genders, and even for the binary genders and equitable society, kind of a utopia kind of a thing, although it's not possible. But yeah, so ma'am, like how you think we should move ahead with all these things
Okay,
as a generation, like a young generation I'm talking about.
I would say with open mind towards all identities, whether it is gender binaries that we are talking about, or LGBTQ kind of identities. Right now, because we are talking about gender, so I'm not talking about other identities like people who are marginalized because of caste or race and all. Those are also identities. So
Yes,
we
ma'am.
have to be open minded towards accepting everybody as human beings, and who should have access to equal opportunities.
Yeah.
And I think here I can talk about John Rawls' veil of ignorance
Yes,
model that he talks about. And he says that while we are formulating our policies, or the government also, or we as human beings, what we expect for us, we should also expect for others.
Hmm.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
that will only happen when you put yourself in that other person's place.
Yeah.
and think that if this opportunity was not given to me
Hmm.
because I belong to a certain identity, a certain gender, then what will happen to me?
Hmm.
How my life would turn out to be?
Hmm.
Exactly.
So, before framing the policies, on one part that we can talk about, we should think about the last person, as Gandhiji used to say, the weakest of the weak. So, here the weakest of the weak, in the sense that of any identity,
Hmm.
Of any identity, yes, ma'am.
be it male, female, whatever, of any race, any caste. And on the other hand, as human beings, and especially as educated human beings, we should be open towards accepting our colleagues, the others, with their faults, if you call them as faults, or I would say their identities as they are,
Hmm.
and do not be judgmental. Because most of the time, sometimes we say, okay, I am the best person, and the other person who's not like me. So this othering keeps on happening in our mind.
Exactly.
He is the other. Why? Because he does not fulfill the criteria which I have set for myself to be the ideal person. So those things we should think that everybody is a normal human being and should be given all the rights, constitutional rights, civic rights, human rights, right? And that kind of equal gaze, the gaze which is not coded gaze. I learned this yesterday only, or the male gaze,
Yes,
which is directly related to gender, but it's a gaze which sees all people as equal. All
Yes,
human
ma'am.
beings as equal.
Totally, ma'am. I understand that when you said about the we can't know other person unless we are in his or her shoe.
True, yeah.
That is the totally defining point, and acceptance is the only thing
Yes.
we should be focusing on as our new
Yes.
generation is going. We
Yes.
should teach coming for future generation as well.
Right.
That will lead to the
Yes, because I think we as the previous generation and the new generation, the legacy that you carry from us is this only, that you take all the good things from us and then move forward. If you find something is not good, should not be accepted or should not be carried forward, you can leave it. There's no binding as such that you have to carry everything.
yes, ma'am.
So that will be provided to you by the culture, of course. So whatever is good in culture, whatever is good in your family, you take it, accept it, and move forward. Keep adding your own good things.
It's like be the change you want to see.
Yes,
Exactly.
be the
Face.
change you want to see. Very
Yeah.
true. Very true. Yeah.
That was so insightful, ma'am. It was such a great session. Although we have to
Yeah.
end the podcast here, but I'm hopeful that we'll have another podcast with you soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much,
It
ma'am.
Thank you
was
so
my
much,
pleasure
ma'am.
to be here and talking to you people. It was really interesting.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So, guys, today we end up here, and it's not the end. We'll come up next month with another episode. So, keep tuning. Thank you so much. Goodbye.